Hey, it's the month of love, and I'm sharing with you how to love your website. Every weekday, I'm sharing quick tips on how you can update your website and make sure it's working best for you and your business. One small way is by making sure that you have an SSL certification on your website. What is that? That's when you go to a website and you see HTTPS before the www, and you see a little green padlock. That means that there is an extra layer of security. Google decided that they like it and they want to see it. So if your website doesn't have it, yes, it can affect your SEO and your rankings. Let's get that fixed and make sure you have your SSL certificate in place and your visitors are happy to see you. Talking about keywords, because how do you get people to your website if they don't know who you are? Because they search, and they're searching for your keywords. So make sure that you know what the keywords are that are associated with your business. You can figure that out by looking at competitors' sites, asking the question that you get asked the most. What do people, number one, want to hear from you about? What are they lost about, confused about? How do you help them? Use those words as content in your website, on your main page, on your about section, anywhere in the website, and especially in blogs. You can make full blogs or even numerous blogs about a certain topic that you typically work with clients on. So if you have a certain service that you handle, make sure you're writing about it and using those keywords. And that way, Google will send people to you because you have what they're asking about on your website. I'm giving you a very small thing to do today, and that is to go and check your links. Can you imagine that's the number one problem on websites, is that links are broken, they don't work, or they were never set up in the first place. So number one, go to your website, check your main homepage, click on all the links for the menu, make sure they all go to the pages that you want them to go to, and please, while you're there, do not forget to check your social media links, because those social media links are obviously important. Why else would you be on social media? But a lot of times they are set up wrong or not set up at all. So make sure you go to your website and check everything out and make sure it's working properly. And also fill out that contact page and make sure you get an email. We're talking about mobile responsiveness. So just making sure that whatever device somebody is visiting your website from, it is responsive and they see it 100% like it should be, or kind of close. Sometimes we have to do a little finagling depending on the device for images and things like that. But you want to make sure that when somebody goes to your website, that they see all of the things that you're sharing. If it's images, videos, all the content, make sure that it looks good and it's not something that's going to make them go and leave the website, because we don't want them to do that. We want them to stay there, know you, trust you, and hire you, because that's what matters. We're talking about images today, and images do affect the speed of your website. So if you have a rather large image and you upload it, it can slow down your website. So you need to make sure that you're compressing your images. You can compress images in the photo software that you use. You can do it on a website, or you can do it on your website. If you're using WordPress, there are some plugins that help you do those things. So one of the tools I use generally is called tinypng.com. It's a great website. It literally just does what it says. It makes your pictures tiny and it compresses them, and then you can upload them to your website and not worry that they're too big and they're slowing down your website. SEO tips. So a very simple thing for you to do when you're creating pages or blogs is to make sure you use your keywords that you've already done research on in your heading or your page title. So what does that mean? When you write a new page, use one of your top keywords is the page title. Make sure that that also goes in your URL. So when someone searches, Google will find that quickly because you have it in your page title and the name. So you'll have it in two places. Plus, anywhere that you use the heading tag. So if you use H1, H2, H3, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, use those keywords in those as well. And that helps you get found quicker. If you don't have Google Analytics already turned on your website, you need to make sure you go right now and turn it on. Or if you're not sure, check. So log into your Google account, see if you have Google Analytics set up for your domain name. Are you seeing something? Or if you can go into the dashboard of your WordPress, see if there's something on your dashboard that's showing your analytics. And what are those? That tells you how many people come to your website, where they're coming from. So if they're coming from Facebook or a search, or what page they land on and how long they're there. It's all the information to help you find out what people are doing when they're there and where they're coming from. And that can help you get more people to your website. We are talking about backups. Number one, very important, is to create a backup. And that's from the beginning. Once you start doing any work on your website, you want to make sure you have a backup in place. It's very easy with WordPress. There's plenty of plugins out there that you can add to your WordPress site and have a backup set up in some way or form. And you can have it on your hosting. A lot of hosting services offer free backups, but you need to make sure that it's a full backup. A lot of them offer a free backup, but it's more of a file and it's not the full backup. So what you want to make sure you have is that if everything were to go away, that you'd be able to get it all back up without any extensive work. One thing that I think people tend to forget is that your website is just another part of your business. That means it shows who you are, what you do, what your business is about. So on your about page, and I really hope you have an about page, you need to have photos. Have a photo of you, have a photo of behind the scenes if you have a physical location, or how you create product. But you need to show who you are, your personality, and why people would want to work with you. Because otherwise it's just another website with a name. It doesn't really tell me much, right? Obviously, you would have a brand identity set up already in your business. You would have your name, your logo, your colors, and other things that would associate with your brand identity. But you want to make sure that that comes across as well in your website. Obviously, you're going to use all those things. But what else are you going to share? So people get to know you, they get to know the business and what you're doing and why you're doing it, and an overall feel. Not just a bunch of pages saying, this is what I do, give us some more. We want more. People like to know more. Backups. And I'm talking about backing up your content. So when you write something, you have that saved. So overall, you do need to back up your full website, but it's also very important to keep track of all of your images and all of your blogs and all of the written words on your website. If you have that saved somewhere in another place, that's even better for you to keep track of. So using Dropbox, Google Drive, Evernote, and plenty of other programs just to be an extra safe place for you to keep that content safe is good to get into practice. So make sure you're keeping backups of everything that you create in another place and not just on your computer. One of those things might not exactly be what you think it is on working on your website, but creating content is a part of working on your website. So having a strategy or a plan in place ahead of time will greatly help you. So if you can write articles in batches or come up with content ahead of time or ideas ahead of time so that you don't have to think about it last minute and you make yourself crazy, that will help you as well. Can you create series like this Love Your Website series, where I'm talking about how I can help you in many different ways on your website. And now this content that's on Instagram will also be on my blog, and it will probably end up in other places as well. So how can you reuse your content or create a strategy to help you come up with it so you're not waiting till the last minute? If you're not sure, ask me now. Navigation is a few things, your menu, the links on your page, but specifically your navigation being easy to figure out and for your customer, client, visitor to come into your website and find what they're looking for easily before they decide it's taking too long and they're going to leave. So if you have someone searching for what you do, you want to make sure when they land on your page, you answer the question of what you do, how you can help them, and why they should stay there and contact you or take the next action, which could be purchasing something or finding out more or signing up for your newsletter. That is the main goal of every page on your website, is to be easy to follow and what simple action to do next. We are talking about navigation part 2. So if I freaked you out a little bit with navigation part 1 and only taking one action per page, don't worry. You can have more than one link on a page, but you want to make sure you make it specific. So if somebody comes to your service page and you offer 3 different services, you're going to have links to those 3 different services, and that is perfectly fine. But once they go to that service page, you want to make sure that you have the actions on that page. So for your main services page, the action is to pick the service they want to go to. They're still doing one action, but they have different options. See how that goes? It doesn't make it harder. They're still taking one action, and you're still making sure that they're doing the customer journey and it's not confusing them and they're not leaving. Talking about contact forms or anything that somebody's going to fill out on your website. If you have just a basic contact form, but you want to make sure you're not getting spammed, there are a few steps to take if the contact form you're using does not already have spam settings set up. So if you're using a plugin, a lot of times they will have something where you can add a reCAPTCHA or a CAPTCHA. And what is that? That's when you have to check a button or you have to enter letters or you have to do a little math equation to make sure that you're a human and not a robot, so you won't get spammed. Now, if your plugins don't have that, you can always easily go get that from Google. Sometimes you can add a code or you can add a new plugin to your website if you're using WordPress. A lot of mail sign-up forms already have this built in, so you can just literally turn it on when you're setting up your mail form with them. But it's kind of an easy thing to figure out. I am going over ADA compliance. That's Americans with Disability Act compliance, which essentially is the law that makes sure that there is wheelchair access into a restaurant and that the restaurant has a restroom with wheelchair access as well. The same thing goes for your website. It needs to be accessible to anyone, especially those with disabilities. And so one way of making sure your website is accessible is to check it. So there are plenty of checkers out there. If you Google website accessibility or website ADA compliance checker, you'll get a lot of them. One of them that I would recommend that's easy to use is wave.webaim.org, and it's a great one. It will pop up and tell you what works on that page and what doesn't work on that page. So it really helps. ADA compliance part 2 and everything you need to know about the law. So ADA was put in place in 1990, long before the internet was in everyday use, and there was no mention of websites whatsoever in that ADA law. However, the Department of Justice has said that it does apply to websites, and they have issued a notice that there will be a change coming soon. Currently, the guidelines that we are following are from Section 508 of the Assistive Technology Act from the year 2000, which is already outdated for today's technology. And in 2008, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines were created. This is a set of compliance levels that were written in a broad way to adapt and change for our ongoing future of technology. However, none of this has been made into law. Currently, there are no legal or technical standards as to what constitutes a website being accessible, and the complaint and resolution process is highly subjective at this time, where most complaints are coming from people who are not even using assistive technology when they are checking websites. There have been a few lawsuits from large companies like Target and Netflix that have settled the disputes out of court and basically just updated their websites to a very strict standard of accessibility. However, nothing has gone to the Supreme Court level, and there has been no legal precedent set in place. So long story short is, who is subject to a complaint? And basically, it's anyone. However, for the most part, it's probably going to be government agencies and entities and large corporations. Now, is it possible to be 100% compliant? No, it's highly unlikely because number one, we don't really know what compliant is. and the standards are all over the place. So can you be as close as possible? Yes, you can do your best, and I'm sharing tips with you about that tomorrow. But other thing for you to think about is that the platform you're using also has to be compliant and be able to give as much compliance as possible. So sometimes that can hold you back. It just depends. We are going over ADA compliance part 3, and this one is small. So basically what you want to do when you're adding images to your website is to make sure you fill out the alt description and the caption and all of that information in your website when you add an image, so that whenever someone with a disability is accessing your website with their device, that they can tell what those images are of, because based on your description. And the other thing is to make sure you're using your header tags properly. So like we talked about in the SEO, is making sure you're using your H1, your H2, and your H3 proper order, and wherever you're going to have a large header or text section would be using your headers properly, and that helps somebody go through the page. So you would have your title bigger than obviously the body text. So having those tags also helps the devices and the person being able to determine what your information is all about. We are talking about privacy policies, and yes, if you have a website, you should have a privacy policy, and that just essentially says that if you're here on my website, using my website, you are agreeing to my policy, and any information that I take from you will be used for ABC. So for example, if you have MailChimp as your newsletter service and you ask somebody to sign up for your newsletter to get newsletters or to opt into something for free, that they understand that that email address they give you and your name or whatever they give you goes to MailChimp, and MailChimp holds it there for you to send the newsletters from, that their information is not being given to anyone else other than that thing. And that's basically it. You're just telling them what you're doing with their data. So you can also find how to write a privacy policy on Google. Very easy. Google it. You can do a free one. You can pay for a service and have one done. It's really not that hard. It is March 1st today, but I wanted to give you a bonus love your website tip, and that's basically do not Google images. Yes, please don't go to Google and use images from Google. If you need images for your website or your social media, you're best using an application or a program that gives you free images. And there are plenty of them out there. You can go to Unsplash, you can go to Pixabay, you can go to a website that actually creates images, like you can use Canva, and they have free images in their gallery you can use. But please do not Google images and copy them and use them on your website, because somebody could send you a lawsuit and you don't want that. So I hope you enjoyed our month of tips, and this last bonus tip helped you. I hope you've had a great time with me for the month of love, of loving your website and loving your business. And I'm just commemorating this beautiful day of completing all of our loving on our websites with the filter of the love hearts. Please always remember, I am here to help you get your website working properly, working with your business, and having a successful website and business for you. Please reach out anytime. You can contact me at the comments below, or go ahead and go to the link above and schedule a call with me, or send me an email.